Hi, thanks for joining me again. First, the legal disclaimer. This segment is for informational purposes only and is not intended to provide any legal advice. You should contact your own attorney for advice on specific legal questions. This video is simply reflective of my personal observations during more than 20 years of providing legal advice to companies. Let me start by asking a few questions. As part of your laboratory services, do you deliver cases to dentists? Maybe you ask an employee to make a delivery on the way home. Or maybe you ask an employee to pick up some supplies over lunch or on the way into work. Or do you have a dedicated delivery driver using their own car or your car? In this article, I want to explore the risks of these kinds of activities and discuss ways to manage the risk. So we will look deeper into 4 areas relating to employee driving for company business. First, we will look into when you may be responsible for your employees' actions while they are driving. Second, we will consider basic insurance requirements you need to be thinking about. Next, we will consider other employment issues, and finally, we will look at some actions that you should consider implementing to reduce your risk. So let's use the example that you have simply asked your employee to drop off a case to a dentist on their way home from work. What could go wrong? If they get into an accident before or after the delivery, are you responsible? The technical legal name for you being responsible for your employee's action is called Respondeat Superior. That's Latin for let the master answer. You know, generally it's great to be the master until and unless you're going to be responsible for every mistake of the servant. The general rule is that a company is going to be responsible for the accidents of an employee if those accidents occur within the scope of employment. What that means is that the employee must be furthering the goal of the company's business when the injury occurs in order for the company to be held responsible for their actions. The difficulty is that some courts have construed what it means to be in the scope of employment very broadly. For example, one court found that an off-duty employee who simply checked her smartphone while driving and as a result got into an accident was in the scope of employment because the employee explained that employees were encouraged to respond to company emails while they were off duty. You also need to be aware that you, as an employer, may be responsible for your own negligence. For example, if you negligently allow an employee to drive whom you knew or should have known may be a dangerous driver, you may be found to be negligent yourself. So, if you fail to check the driving record of an employee that you're allowing to make deliveries, and that delivery driver has had multiple DUI infractions, then it's your own negligence, or perhaps gross negligence, that is an issue when you allow that employee to drive and they drive drunk and get into an accident. The good news is that you are not generally responsible for your employees driving to and from work. This rule is referred to as the going and coming rule. So you are typically not responsible for an employee's act that causes an injury while the employee is coming to or going from work because the employee is acting outside of the course and scope of employment. However, and please pay attention here, this general rule can quickly change and the employee could be found to be acting within the scope of employment simply by driving to and from work if the employee is on a special errand or mission for the company. This exception is called the required vehicle exception. This exception applies if the use of the employee's vehicle is a condition of employment or if the employer has come to rely on the regular use of this employee's vehicle. Accordingly, and this point is important, simply by asking an employee to make a delivery on the way home, you are arguably requiring the use of their vehicle at work, and you can become responsible for their actions at any time while driving their vehicle to work, out to lunch, back home from work. It's a scary world.